So we're going to begin with body position and stance. And when I say stance, really it's only stance where you're stationary in the beginning part of the training, and eventually you want it to be mobile and still have the benefits of what that stance would do for the purposes, in this case, of really body armor, or what a lot of folks would call iron body and internal power. And so I'm going to try to give you some insight into that. There's some simple things that are sort of external, and then there's some more difficult to get at first things that are internal, and I'm going to try to make that simple for you. So John, come out here. Turn to face the camera, and then there you go. And what I want you to do at first is to stand like this. And if I'm here, I'm just going to take a fist and sort of push on him a bit. Yeah. And then you can put this way and do it the same thing. Notice there's a difference already. Now, part of it is that, and he did this naturally, is that let your shoulders rise up so that you're just resting. No, I mean just rest there like softly, comfortably. Notice that kind of goes in more. And so he pulled these back and he pulled his shoulders down so that literally he went, I'm pulling this down and back and I'm pushing my chest forward. And that made that a whole lot stronger. Let it all relax now. And I'm hitting him with a fraction of what I did before. And so see that much for yourself, and then we'll do some more. So look, I've got some folks that are here that are doing this, and they're bringing their fists up here, and then they're pulling this back and pulling their shoulders down, and they're not doing anything else with the chest. Think about if you see two kids in the fight in the hood, they puff their chest out, and they're in there like this. That's what you want. Puff that chest out and let it expand and get pulled across so that you're, and it's odd because you're opening it up and yet it's more powerful. And so if you think about it too much, it's kind of like that's strange. But think about it like I'm putting my chest forward like this, and then pull this back and pull those shoulders down, right? And then then you hear the difference in the sound there from doing it, and get that. Okay. All right, so just once again to emphasize, I take and make fists here. I do want my fists to be reasonably, not this way, not that way, but straight lined, both of them, this way. And I'm pulling them back, I'm bringing them up as high as I can, and pulling them back, ideally so that if somebody was to put a board in front of my chest, they're not here, they're all the way back. What happens, everybody bunches up their shoulders and they do this, so pull them all the way back, and then push your shoulders down as much as you can while these are up here as high as you can get them, and back so that they're flat across the surface of you. And you'll feel that spreading out, stretching, and pushing forward of this part of your chest, right? And then from there, it's push it out even more. Like that. And the more you can do that, in this part, keep your chin, don't be like here, offering your throat, keep your chin tucked, even though that's what's going on. So I'm pulling these in and back, stretching that chest and pushing it out, keeping my head this way. You see where my chin is, not here, almost looking down, but not quite. But if I had to choose between up or down, slightly downward, and this part just expanding, stretching, and pushing out like that. And then push down with those shoulders. Like that. Okay. Now his solar plexus, that place where if you have somebody hit you, or even if you take your own fingers and do this, there's a part there that's like sensitive for most people. About right. You can hear it pushing his breath out. Right? And so if I'm punching that, it's kind of like, woo. Not everybody, but most people, right? So what I want him to do is, he's in this position with these back so that they're straight across there. He's pushing down with this part, turn sideways once. He's pushing down with this, and that way that's there, even though these are up here. Turn back to the front. And what I want him to do is to take this whole part of his body and lift up and out, and your feet feel like your toes are starting to grip into the floor so that there's a stretch this way. Now, when I'm punching his solar plex, pull up so you feel that solar plexus stretch. So feel how that's still going in a little bit. So then really lift and push that out along with the chest being pushed out like that. And you'll find that that spot that's really tender like that is much more protected than it was before you did that. Stand regular ones. Yeah. And notice I gave you just a little bit. You can see it for yourself. Do not go, let's see, blam, always doubled over. You know, be careful with your partner. Okay. But do it enough to see while being careful, right? One of the things you really want for any good internal art is that you want the breath to be either whole body breathing, or at the very least, to have it where the breath is really coming in and out all the way in here, and that you've got reserved breath on top of whatever breath you're using. So if I'm like this, I want to be able to still have breath on top of that. So to give you an idea, and then there's still more, or again. Now that I've still got that reserve. In order to do that, you've got to have it filled up, because if it's only here, you do that and then you're out of breath. You know, it's all out, so you have to breathe in again. I need the breath to be all the way in there to do that. Part of what happens is that in this posture, with these pulled back, and the shoulders pulled down, and the stretch, and the push in, everything we've talked about, right? And pushing out with this as well, so that you're protected all the way through. And by the way, come out here real quick, John, and do it again to that degree. Your belly as well protected, versus if you're just relax everything. You can tell it's kind of versus now protected again, right? Because and the protecting is it's being pulled tight like a drum, so that force, instead of going in there, is being spread out and across it. Now, when I say internal, there are internal things being done to get this, but obviously this is kind of, a lot of internal is soft, and this is kind of a hard, but it's in a good introduction, and it's putting you in the right kinds of body alignments, and it's making the breath come all the way in, go back into the position. And so instead of the breath coming into here, which if you kind of collapse that again, there it makes the breath want to stay here when it's just kind of this way. When he does this and he pulls this all up, when he breathes in, it kind of the breath pulls a little more narrowly, or a little smaller in the top, like a line or something about yay big around, instead of filling up the upper lungs. But it makes it want to pull, as long as this is extended upward and outward and back and out like we're talking about here, and it makes it come into here, and then the volume of breath in the body is all wanting to happen in this area. So now you're doing belly breathing when you're doing stuff, and it means if he punches out and breathes out with it, he still has a reserve of more that he can kind of add to that. And also then if he got caught once, there's still more behind that, if he even breathed out to it at all, as opposed to from here, just a little bit. He still had good reserve, and obviously it just took a little bit of breath out, and that was with a little bit of a punch. Not like horrifying or anything, but you know, enough. So then really stretch that, pull this back, chin's down, and you'll see what I'm telling you there. All right, do that, feel the breath, and especially if you'll feel this part is where you get more stretch if you're in the position correctly from the breath kind of coming in there, and then you can do that carefully with a partner as well. All right. So hold the posture long enough that if you were holding your breath, you'd fall over and pass out. It's not holding your breath. I mean, stay here for a couple, 3, 4, 5 minutes, right? Just working on this part that we're having you do there. And so what's happening is the air's coming all the way in here. What you'll find is that it's not breathe in 100% of what I'm going to breathe in and breathe out 100% of everything I took in. It's that when I first breathe, maybe I breathe in 100%, right? And I breathe back out 60%, 70%. And I have 30%, 40% left in reserve, right? And then I breathe in again, only about 60%. And I'm not even breathing all the way to capacity of full. So let's say I can do 100%. I'm only really breathing in about 80 to 90% of the breath that I need, as long as I'm just standing here. That other 10%, why would I fill up all the way? Right? That's almost harsh on the body. And so I'll just breathe up. I'll leave a little bit of space so that I could breathe in more if I needed to, or something, maybe breathe in some, then I can. Anyway, so I breathe in, let's say 80%, 90%, leave that other 10% that I could bring in, I'm not even doing that. And then when I breathe back out, I'm breathing out 60%. So I still have a reserve of 20 that I brought in, plus that 10% that I didn't even bring in. It's just space in my body for air. So 100% of capacity, breathe in 80%, breathe back out 50%, 60%, breathe back in 50%, 60%. So I've always got a reserve left, and I am breathing in and out the entire time. So from here, I'm about 90, there's 100. I didn't want the extra stress of the 100, so just 90. Now breathe back out. Breathe out about half of what I had taken in. Back up to 90. Back out to like 45, 40, 50. Back up to 90. And so I've always got, there's back to 40, 50. That much more out. I put that back up to 90, could always bring in a little more. So I'm breathing, but I've always got reserve in both directions. I could add more, or I could breathe out more, either one, even though I'm continually breathing the whole time. Okay, so what we did here so far was put our feet together. I leaned my knees slightly forward there, I didn't mention that before. I'm sort of up here like I'm looking over the edge of the cliff. And then I pull this in and then stretch and expand the chest, right? And I pull the fists up as high as I can, and I pull my elbows down and my shoulders down as much as I can, and expand the chest some more from here at my lower belly, just around my belly button, and pull up, making sure that I'm not just doing this with the upper body and the lower body's not doing anything. I'm stretching through my legs as well. Right, so that this whole part here has that kind of a thing to it. And then from here, bend your knees. Now here's the tricky part, and it is part of what's internal about it, is that if you just bend your knees, but there's nothing going on there's nothing internal, you just bend your knees. The internal part is, I bend my knees while I still stretch inside. And that's the tricky part. So when I kick them out right there, I'm pushing my knees that way so I feel that stretch, and my toes are wanting to grip the floor doing it, and then I push up inside of me while keeping my knees bent, and I'm pushing up all the way through while keeping the knees bent. And so bend your knees, right, and they're straight and locked and there's bent, so on camera it may not show up as well, but they're bent, and then I'm stretching and expanding through me like that with the knees bent. And then from here, again, you can check that. Make sure to breathe, but breathe while keeping the position like that. Then from here, take your feet and come 1, 2. Now there also is the idea of go the other way. 1, and that's this. 1, 2, 3. And what I would recommend to you is to do it where it's 1, 2. So when I went out the first one, I'm on my heels and my toes go out, and these stay touching. And then they set down where they're at. I come up on my toes and turn the heels out, and then I sink my knees, pushing them forward and out this way, so that I could actually do that if I really strain it, which you're not going to mostly do, but I want them close there. And I want it so that my foot wants to do that. And I want to feel that all the way in there so that you feel the push against the floor, and the direction of that, which is out and around, is coming up, and your knee is bent. It's coming up and around your leg, up and around your leg, up and around your back, through you, so it's literally spiraling this way, up and out, like that. And then from here, and so do that much first, just from here, bend them, stretch through, 1, 2, and this floor is slippery, so it's not going to cooperate very well. Make sure your knees stay pushed out and forward. Bring your butt in, stretch up through you, keeping your knees bent, keeping this part like the way that we've been doing since the beginning of it. This way. Now take this area and push it out and up. Like that. And what I want you to see with this, John, come out here and do this. So put the feet together. Bring this part. Knees are bent. Right? First step out. Now, bend your knees again. Second step out. A little further. No, not like that. A little further, like instead of there. Yeah. So start from the beginning. 1. Bend your knees. 2. Bend them in so that your knees should be able to see how I can touch them here. Okay, so you look a little wide. I think do this as slow as I'm doing it. 1, 2, bend your knees. There we go. Now that you touch them, right? Yeah. And you touch them by sinking straight down. Now the trick to this is do not lean anywhere. Stay straight up and down when you drop, and that's going to bring them together. Then from here, take this part and kick it straight out, and then lift out your belly and lift out your whole body is expanding upward and outward, and you should feel the twist from the floor coming up your legs in a spiral in that kind of an action through here, and then you're pushing out and forward through. Now, without that, relax for a second. If I'm into this crease right here on him, either one of them, now go back into the position as best you can. Can you touch your knees? Yeah, now get your butt way underneath you. That part's out there forward. Now I'm in that crease, and I can hit in that crease, and normally you can set somebody right down on the floor with it, and it's bouncing back. Literally the push of that spiral shape, internal spiral coming up and through, is pushing back out through his body, and he's extending from the inside and stretching it and connected from head to toe as one piece, and that's making this. So he's dropped these a little bit, bring that back out. There you go. And so now if he's this way, that's doable. If he relaxes and I do a fraction of that, big difference. Now, don't hold the breath when you're doing it, so you want to get into the position and make sure that the stretch is there, and then be in it as best you can. Chin down too. And breathe. Make sure you keep that connection. If you break that connection, that internal connection, which is what feels like that spiral and that stretch through you, then that's where the hole in your armor of position is at for this posture. So here's what I want you to see on this also. So do the posture now as best you can with what I've instructed you on. Start from the beginning.
Okay. So.
Yeah, and sink. And stay sunk, that way you could touch your knees, and ideally they'd be in more than what they are there. Okay. Yeah, and now you feel that. And if your feet are sliding on this floor, because I know it's an extra one, then like wipe your shoes off and then find or adjust where you're at so you can get a spot where you can grip pretty good. Obviously in the beginning you might want to do this on carpet or something, but eventually you do want to graduate to where you could do it just because you go into the position and do that. So now, make sure you're lifted all the way through from all of this and out. So it's got that effect to it as opposed to, notice where I'm at here and then that way, right? And so really lift that and, yeah, that. And continue to breathe and all that stuff. And then relax for a second. So to give you an idea, I'm going to use go back in. I'm going to use a shin here to do this. I'm going to make sure you can see. Okay, turn this way. to me. Yeah. So he's standing there, you feel that biting through the bone, right? So then do this posture properly and all that, and make sure those are in so that way it's protecting the groin a little bit too. And I would even come a little bit more so downward, so that way it's even protected more. And come in and make sure you've got the spiral from your feet and then the lift out here so that the spiral continues up and out through your upper body, right? A little more. Now that kind of went off and around instead of going in, or is it still going in?
Still going in.
So you've got to make the adjustment there so let me have you do this. Make sure you can feel, do that to me there. I'm moving that, the crap I got in my pocket out of the way, ow, ow, because of there. Okay, you can feel, right? Now do it again. You feel it.
Yeah.
Instead of going in, right? So make sure that spiral, turn your toes themselves in a little more, bring them ever so slightly closer to each other. That way, make sure that you stay down low enough so that there's not this big gap in there, but that they're closer like that. Yeah. And then make sure everything else is lifted, starting from the feet up and through. So, and you're trying to make it that your feet, like right now, really doing it, my feet are sliding, so now I've got a little bit of grip, but they would do that if they were sliding like before, they would be sliding because I'm really pushing them that way, that much. Do you have that going on? Yes or no?
Go ahead.
Yeah, now that I could feel was going that, and it's kicking it off there. And so you use your partner to help you and make sure that's going on. Okay, so from the beginning, for doing this, for getting the stance and spending, and you need to spend 2 to 5 minutes a time doing it initially. Some people do it for like an hour and all that kind of stuff. And you want your body to take on the qualities of this so that it's there, even if you aren't in the stance, that you could do this and it's, hey, my body's got that quality to it, right? And we've got a whole set of exercises. This is one exercise, really two, this one and then this one. And we've got other exercises that really build up the whole body like this for power. So from beginning to end here, it's do this, bend your knees, make sure your stretch is in there. Notice everything's kind of forward already. 1, 2, notice I'm stayed sunk, so these are close. It's not like there's that in there, it's this. And then everything underneath there is coming in and up and out. And this is coming up and out. And this is coming up and out. These are coming back, my chin's down. And it's just like that. And make sure you've got that spiral come from the bottom up. And then right now to do it, you would go bend, 1, 2, and everything there, making sure your spiral is in there as well. Eventually, if you train that, then as soon as you, boom, want to be there, you could turn that on right away and jump into it. But you got to really have the feeling of everything that it's involving first. Like that. Okay. So part of what I'm doing there is I'm getting spring power, this coiling action all the way through me. And what happens normally, just to give you an idea of this briefly and easily, John, stand, you can face the camera or face the other way, it's all good. If I'm here, you stay there kind of strong, like so, yep, here, if I will coil up this way and do that, so here's just stay right there. So here's the posture, and then I could turn and keep those body mechanics and dynamics in there so that the spiral's all the way through. And now, come back again, here's without, that was with, and I turned it on just being there like that. And it really, you can do this with a partner just really easy. So you could even brace up there, here's this, make sure it's on, Keep that in you even when you're doing it. In other words, it's still in your arms, even when your arms are out here. These are still down, this is still extended, this is still connected, this is still raised and out there. And make sure your partner's somebody that, you know, you can tell without, with. Do it on your own and we'll answer any questions. The group here will do it. So two things that I need to point out here based on what the group was doing is that is when you're pushing your partner to see the difference in the two pushes, your partner needs to take whatever stance, position, strength they're going to take, and they need to be doing that. They don't care what you're doing. They're doing that same thing. So they don't adjust when you're going to do the good one or adjust when you're going to do the other one. They do, I'm doing this every time. And so every time you've got that, you can do it against the heavy bag just as well. And then the heavy bag is going to be the same for you every time. Now, the other thing I saw some folks running into was that they were here to push, and then they went into the position and they stayed here to push, but there was a reach issue because this is designed to be closer in. Come out here, John, quickly. So I'll show you what I mean by that, turn sideways. So I'm going to push them from here, and they were pushing kind of like, okay, and then they did this, and they went, why can't I push them? Well, there was a distance issue. So when I'm pushing them both times, first time I'm going to be here, second time I'm still going to be here, now I can reach them. And you can tell the difference in the two things. All right. Okay, so I wanted to give you some idea of power from spiral. John, come out here again. And there is that because that spiral is connecting through my whole body. And as you look at point of contact from, say, here through me to my foot as a straight line, it's 6, 7 feet, 8 feet maybe. If I've spiraled it, then maybe it's double that, 16 feet. The difference is I'm getting 16 feet of force through whatever distance that it is that I'm doing it. So it's not like I'm having to try to hit him from 16 feet away, like pushing with a stick. It's that I'm still here, close, but I've got all that power of the release, or movement is better than release, because you could release but never let it all the way out. Because if you did, then you've broken your spiral and you're not using it anymore. But if I'm doing that, to give you an idea, here's this, right? And then I'm spiraled in there like that and up and through, and I give them the power of all of that coil coming out of there, and it's noticeably more powerful. So here's this, and it's noticeable like that. Try that for yourself. So I've got spring power going on when I'm moving the whole time, right? And that power of that spring, so when they push in, they're pushing into a spring. If they just push into it and it's just regular hanging meat, it penetrates and it goes in at the spot. But if it's a spiral acting on that, it goes in, and instead of just going straight into an inner, say an organ, it wants to dissipate, it wants to become part of that spiral and go off. So that's part where you felt this springiness, and also it tends to dissipate across the surface, any impact I'm talking about. Now, can it be overridden? But of course, for anything you can discover, there's always a counter of something stronger and more and, you know, bigger and faster and all that stuff. Anyway, so from here on the outgoing, let's say that you're grabbing both hands, if you would. So if I no spiral, none of that, and I pull in, there's that stuff. And you saw him come right on forward. Do it on the other one. Just trying to make sure you can see nothing going on. Here's that. Here's that. And I've let him set his position there. And I only turned it on a little bit. That was turned on quite a bit more. And so what happens there, same thing. If I'm here trying to come like so with this, and that was with nothing else on, and I do that, and I'm really cutting in there with that spiral coming out of that. All right. So I've given you some of the internal power keys for how to make this work and kind of what you need to do to get it going on. There are other postures, and then how do you make it so that when you're in other postures that you've got those dynamics going on. And then there are other body mechanics that you can use and other methods, like I've talked mostly about spring, and some about extension. And there's other internal aspects, including like we talked about breath, but there are other ones as well that you can put into this to make it really internal. And we've got videos on that. We've got one that's all on internal power. We've got another one that's another set of like other postures besides this one. This one has the narrow kind of high up, and I'm going to show you in a minute what that's for. And other ones can be a little more longer and for some other things. Anyways, we have all that available for those of you that are interested in wanting more of just this part of it. All right, so my application on this isn't so much if I'm taking this as a posture to fight with, that I'm over here doing this. Although you could, and I'll talk about that. The beginning of this is from here with everything going on. And then you could turn and do it to the side, right? And you could even come into like a Kun Tao, and we've got a full video or several on that and a program on that, doing it with that. And the same thing on the other side. So if he's over there, I could start to go into it with the idea that obviously I need to get to him and that kind of thing, or if his fists are up, and I really don't want to slowly bring a punch. And so let's say I've come from here, bring your other punch and step with it. And this way, and notice I wasn't using it a whole lot, or I was a lot more defensive, but once I get to here, now I'm in, and it is a close range system that we're working on, showing you this with at the moment. Now I'm in a place where I can really bring power with this and use this, and if he's going to attack me, because the worry that I find that people have is they're going, okay, I'm like this, and I'm like this in front of him, and oh my, you know, he's going to attack my groin, he's going to come after my throat. Well, I'm either not doing that, or if I am face on like that, I'm here where I have access to those things on him too. And if he wants to cover those up a lot, he'll give me something else. So you're close enough that something is going to be exposed to them. And in this case, I'm using it to protect myself. And also, if he punches up and over top, bring that, right? And notice, as opposed to me being kind of in here, of course, I could always do it where I come all the way in. That's more like Kung Tao again. For this, I'm bring the other punch this way, and it's giving me this in close, and you can see how my knees are in there, and this is helping protect that. Even so turn and punch me to the belly with that if you would. And like I said, you will tend to bring things, cover your head better with that other hand, punch under there. And so I was able to use it coming this way, could always come this way with it, and I'm in on him enough so that it's not like they're quite exposed the way you would normally think of if we were really operating the whole time at this kind of a distance and he's trying to kick and that kind of thing. If he's doing that, I'll either come out further away or go into that posture, or I come on in with that stuff going on. And now you're in a position to use it.